Right, this morning I thought I'd try an experiment. Based on what people have said about my scanner video and why my car may be running a little bit on the rich side of the long term, and that's an exaggeration because minus 15 is a little too much for me, even though it has to be minus 25 to trigger a code, and that's when it's really bad. So we're nowhere near the bad stage, but I would like to try a few things. Now, I have a spare MAF sensor in the boot. There is a good reason why it's in the boot. I've had two fail on me, and on the automatic version, the gearbox does not know what to do. The gearbox relies on the MAF sensor information as well as the ECU, and it really plays up. So I have to have one in the boot. There's a few things I have in the boot, like, I would recommend having a coil pack in the boot if you have one. Some old HT leads that work, which I have. I've got the originals. They're not brilliant though, compared with the new ones, but they work, so they're in the boot. There's a few things that I would recommend that could leave you stranded that you could just swap over. A throttle position sensor is one of them, although it's an aftermarket one. And quite frankly, I know that the one on the car works fine. It's sitting at 19% to idle, and that's what you want for an OEM one. But anyway, I am going to start the car, put the scanner on, confirm the long-term fuel trim, and then switch it off and swap the MAF and see what that does. Okay, the car is idling away on a cold start, but that shouldn't really affect some of the values anyway. 19% throttle position sensor. I mean, I could give it a blip for you. There we go. You want it to change like that. There you go. Nice. Airflow rate from the mass airflow sensor. Now, I would just wait to confirm that that is the required weight, 5.430. Just let it settle, just to get a little bit of a reading, because we're going to change that. 5.430. Remember that. Oh no, it's gone up to 5.7. Okay, 5.540. Okay, it seems to be flip-flopping. 5354. Okay. Don't know what it did there. Sometimes these things do have a tendency to go a little bit AWOL. Anyway, air temperature sensor, that's part of the MAF sensor as well. Just well, that's possibly going to increase, but 6 degrees. Right, minus long-term fuel trim, bank 1, 14%. Okay, now I don't necessarily think having a car that's, we could wait a few minutes, but that's barely going to change. I'm just going to I'm going to wait a couple of minutes to confirm that that is where we are at, but we don't really need to worry. I'm in the short term. Oh, it hasn't even, oh, it's just come on. Sometimes they take ages to load, but that is exactly where it should be. But yeah, typically. Right, okay, I'll wait a few minutes and then we'll swap. It went up to minus 15 again just now. As it got warm, I could sense that the idle had gone down. The stepper motor had sort of allowed the idle to come down. So now I'm going to swap over and put another sensor on. Don't worry, it's not a Febby one. This is the box of the Febby MAF sensor, but it's a genuine one. So we're going to put this on now. I forgot I had a load of these actually in here. What else have I got in this box? I completely forgot. I have another throttle position sensor. I might actually change this as well, and it's a genuine one. That's why I had it in here. Crank sensor, cam sensor, the sort of stuff that could leave you stranded in the middle of nowhere, which only requires a little bolt to undo, and a load of fuses. That makes sense. The big ones as well. Although I dare say if any of the big fuses go on you, you've got problems. Right. Disconnect, connect Now I'm not going to take the battery off, I know I should, but quite frankly I can't be bothered. It's not about my camera angles, I'm trying to do this as quick as possible in a bit of a rush. The day is just going to be manic as we're going into the new year. I try to be a sociable person alongside my hobby. It's not easy. It's not easy. Old sensor out, new one in. Again, this is a genuine Ford one. Okay, it will have, you will know if it's a genuine Ford one. It's got a blue seal and all the elements are being cleaned, temperature sensor. So bung that straight back in, tighten up the bolts, and then we can basically start it again and see what the results are. Right, leave that there, plug it in. Let's go and see what happens. Right, this is very interesting because this math sensor is actually showing a much lower reading, 4.6, 442, so 4.220. That is far lower considering the vehicle isn't moving. I mean, there is a little bit of wind that could actually affect the reading, but 3.9, 4220, that's far lower than 5.3. It was as low as 5.2 on the older one. Now it's gone to 3.7. What's the air temperature sensor doing? 7, exactly the same as the other one, really. Yeah, okay. Still the same. That's interesting. So it has not affected the long-term fuel trim one bit. Nope. Short-term fuel trim exactly the same. So realistically, guys, that has not done anything. And no, doing a reset, it doesn't need it for this sort of sensor. It's a plug in and go. It's a reader. Minus 14. But then it's not a lot. It's not much of a difference at all. That's a much lower reading. 2.7, 2.6. Which is what it should be within the normal range. It shouldn't be as high as 5.3, 5.2. Now, truth be told, the car has warmed up, but the airflow rate is independent of that. It doesn't matter what temperature the engine is, it's the airflow rate measured going through that sensor, which is practically, it's idle, it's stationary, it's not moving. So that reading would not be affected by the engine. And yet that is a much lower reading. So it's obviously settled quite low down. So I'm actually going to keep this math sensor on the car. I'm going to put the one I've just taken off and put it in the boot as a spare, and I'm going to see how I get on with that. Curious. But yeah, to confirm, it has not made, I mean, the intake air temperature is fine. I mean, that's barely any change whatsoever. So no, it's not that. Curious. Well, there's only one other thing we can change. Throttle position sensor. Okay, so I've got my genuine Ford throttle position sensor waiting to go in. Now, the throttle position sensor, all we have to do is you have to unclip this, push it in, and it should, there we go, it's slid off straight away. Now it's just held in by two T20 volts, one here, one on the other side. You just got to take them out. And once you've loosened them off, you should just be able to wind this back out. I mean, you don't need a security Torx bit for that, you just need a normal T20. They're tiny little screws. I have lost a few of them in the past because they're so tiny, these. Come on. Should just be able to move that. There we go. And it comes off that fork. So just put that back out, and that's basically what you place the new mass sensor on the throttle plate. So what we're going to do, just swap over the screws and pop this one on. Okay, it's exactly the same construction. This is off another scrapyard car, so it just goes on and it slides in, and just whack the bolts back in. Just put that in. It's one of the easiest jobs going on this car. Everything is pretty simple. I mean, this is simple, this is simple, that's simple. That's just depressurise, take off the fuel line, have some rags underneath it, you can swap it over. Map sensors are a bit more difficult to get to because they're hidden down here. Anyway, I will finish putting this on, and we will cut to, again, trying to start the car. But that's interesting straight away. Throttle position 20%. How interesting. Now that, I believe, is the OEM reading, as somebody once told me. So my other one, 19.7%, slightly different to this one. Again, the airflow rate is kind of stable at 2.7. Well, come on. 8 degrees, it's warmed up a little bit. Absolutely no difference whatsoever. 14.844%. Food for thought. Again, it points to a fuel pressure regulator problem. I'm going to keep this sensor in, like the MAF sensor. I am going to keep this sensor in and just see how it behaves. I mean, I'm just going to kick my foot down the gas. Okay. I'll stick with that and see how it goes. Just check again. Yeah, no difference. Okay. Sorry, I had to come in. The lighting was quite poor out there this morning. It's quite dull. Fuel pressure regulator, I will change that possibly next week. I want to give the car a week of running on the MAF sensor and throttle position sensor that I've just fitted, because I'm quite happy that the pair of them are working quite nicely, and according to the readings they're kind of more or less where they should be. It hasn't affected the long-term fuel trim, but the truth is it needs time to bed in and see what the results are. Sometimes the results are instant, but I like to just give it a bit of time, and they've been fitted now. I'm not going to put the other two back on the car unless I feel that there's a problem. So we'll go with that, and then we'll see if I can change the fuel pressure regulator. I've got two of them. One of them I know isn't quite as good as the one that's on the car at the moment, and then I've got another one which I want to test, and I think I know which one that is. Anybody that says the air control valve would affect things, not really. They don't really affect things in that way, not the fuel trim. They would affect the way the car idles, but the main element is the MAF sensor and what it reads, how much air it's reading coming into the car, because that is absolutely crucial. It's like the #1 thing, and it has affected the results today. So that's quite interesting. Fuel filter's been changed, but then a blocked fuel filter would cause a lean code, not a rich one. So it's not that rules that out of the equation. So I'm going through the process a little bit. But yeah, fuel pressure regulator, it looks like we're aiming for that now. Anyway, I thought this would be an interesting video just to see if I can do a bit of plug and play, because I've got all these spare parts and I've virtually got all the parts that I need. I just need to keep swapping them over. It is a question though of even though you've got genuine parts and we're not throwing any codes and they're working, there is differences, because obviously they've all got to a certain age now where if they're the originals, then they're not going to be as sharp as what they used to be in terms of reading and accuracy. And this test kind of shows that a tiny bit. So just to give you a little bit of awareness about that. Like and subscribe, and please share this channel with people on the Rover 45 community and the Ford Focus Mark 1 community, because I'm trying to grow my audience a little bit in terms of both those cars. Take care.